Hi, Rory. Thanks for joining today. For those listeners who have heard a bit about BenchPress and the Wow Company, can you just give us a bit more background? How long has BenchPress been around? What does the Wow Company do? And who you guys targeted at?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Maria. My name is Rory Spence, and I work at the Wow Company, and we are an accountancy firm that specializes in working with agencies over £1 million turnover. That has led us to create the BenchPress report, which is a survey of independent agencies across the UK that we've done every year since 2012. This is our 13th, 14th year now of benchmarking, which is really exciting. And we ask all sorts of questions to agency owners and leaders around what their biggest challenges are in the year, what they're finding that's working really well, how much they charge, where they win their new business. Like over the years, we've asked hundreds of different questions and we collate that data and then we release it for free. So you can get a copy. Anyone listening today can download a copy completely free and check out how they compare to other agencies.
Great, great. Sounds so super interesting to be able to compare all those years of data and see how the market is trending and how where agencies are going, right?
100%. Yeah, I always say this. I wish there was a similar thing available for accountants, to be honest with you, where we could see, how do we charge compared to other accountancy firms in the UK, but we don't. But it's really cool to be able to provide that insight for agencies. We often hear agency owners saying things like, oh, you know what? It's really reassuring to know I'm not alone. I'm not the only one facing these challenges. It's although I don't get pleasure out of other people
Yeah.
having those problems as well, at least I know I'm not alone. But
Mhm.
it's also brilliant. We've also got clients and agencies we know who are using this to justify their rate cards, for example, to their
Great.
clients. And they're
Great.
actually able to say, hey, look, well, 700 agencies, more or less, take part in this bench press survey. And this is how we compare. So it's used in so many different ways. And that's what we love about it.
Great. Great. Speaking of challenges, what were the top challenges for agencies last year? So speaking of 2024, and how does that compare to previous years? What were the trends like, and what have they been doing about it?
It's a great question. This one was really fascinating. So, new business is always one of, if not the top challenge for agencies. So, nothing's different there because that was the number one challenge again in 2024. What was really interesting about that, though, is the sheer volume of participants who said that was their number one challenge. So, a couple of years ago, that was 27% of agency owners said new business was their number one challenge. This year, it was 46%. So one in two agencies, more or less, are saying that our biggest challenge in the business right now is new business. It's really, really tough. So we've seen that over the last 2 years, frankly, that being a brutal challenge. We've seen from the stats that growth rates are down again, and that's just really because of new business and it being slow. A lot of people seeming to say, well, actually, there are opportunities out there. We're having conversations, but just decisions are either taking forever or not happening at all. People obviously using terms like ghosting a lot, and that seems to be rife right now in the industry. So it's really bloody tough for agency
Hmm.
owners right now.
Mm. And you asked agencies what was or is most important to them now. Um, Obviously, partially it's related to this, right? But did anything really stand out this time around?
Yeah, so we ask agency owners every year what their priority is for the business, what their main goal is for the business, and building an asset, building a valuable asset was by far and away the number one objective for agency owners this year. When we asked this question 2 years ago, it was very close between that and building an agency with purpose or operating an agency with purpose. That number pretty much halved this year in terms of agency owners who are wanting to just operate a business with purpose, and the rise of agency owners building an asset and effectively saying, you know what, we want to exit. Actually, that is the goal now. Just shows what a brutal couple of years it's been, because agency owners now are not thinking long term. I still want to be doing this in 10 years time. They're thinking, "Oh, man, this is rough, and actually if I can build something that I can sell and I can get out of, then that is increasingly important for agency owners, and the focus, and that I think is a little bit sad, but it does lead to a ton of opportunities out there, right? Both on buying and the selling side of things. It does mean it could be quite an interesting time for the agency sector over the next few years.
For sure, for sure. We've seen a lot of this M&A activity, even within Productive Zone customer base, which is, mostly UK, Netherlands, the US, Australia. We have, like tons of different cases in which either a company was bought or an agency was merged with another, and it's really been trending nowadays. And even if they're not planning on selling yet, they're very interested in their valuations.
Yeah,
So just kind of understanding where they can even like shape up in the next few years, where they can um, improve to even build that value even more.
I totally agree. Yeah, so this is something we do at Wow. We help agency owners to work out what the value of their agency is now, and then looking at what are the levers that will impact what their multiple is in the event of a sale,
Hmm.
and how they can work on that. And then we work with them to prepare a 2 or a 3 year forecast to go, well, if you implemented all of these things, this is what would happen to the value of your business and the multiple of your business. So you get a double whammy benefit, right?
Hmm.
And that service at Wow that we're providing is more popular than ever, because exactly like you're saying, people are thinking about that.
Yeah,
And the beauty, at least they are doing that thinking 2, 3, or 4 or more years out. Because, of course, if you're thinking, right, I'm just going to exit next year, and then you do that planning, it's likely too late. You need to be thinking about these things as
you're
far in advance as possible.
sure, sure. You guys measure what concrete actions agencies take in the past year. What did agencies do that made a positive impact on their performance last year or this year?
Yeah, great question. So we did some analysis around this, and what were some of the key trends of those faster growing agencies and more profitable agencies? And there were some interesting insights that came out here. One of those was on the growth side of things and on the profitability side of things. Those agencies that really focused on on a specialism and a niche have outperformed those that are more generalist agencies. So, to be honest, we've spoken about this for a few years now, and our belief anyway is that this is a good approach to take. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are, of course, challenges that will come with that. But we are seeing in the stats now that, just to reiterate, if you are focused on a particular specialism or niche, you are growing faster and are making more profit than those agencies that don't do that. So I think that's one key takeaway to think about. Another thing to look at, which was quite interesting analysis, is actually those agencies inside of London are making less profit than those outside of London.
Hmm.
So I think this will be very different to 5 or 6 years ago. We don't actually have the analysis to be able to do this, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But I think 5 or 6 years ago, my gut feel would be those agencies in London were able to charge a real premium above those agencies that operated sort of more remotely around the UK. So, of course, they had to pay higher salaries, but you could justify it by their increased rates.
sure,
Whereas now, what we're seeing is that's no longer the case. The premium in terms of fees that is able to be charged by London agencies compared to those outside of London is so small. However, the salary gap is so high, and
sure.
therefore actually there's no benefit anymore. Of course, a lot of agency owners I appreciate are saying, well, we win work by being in London, so we need that London address. I guess there's maybe a question there around, can you have a London address without necessarily being based in the city?
Yeah.
There's a number of other things to consider there, things like talent. I get that. But I found it really interesting nonetheless, just to do that analysis and see the difference.
And they must have also been working on their on their marketing, on their sales, like investing more into the challenge that they had, right? Winning new business.
Yeah, exactly that. So I do think there's benefits to being in London that would attract those clients, like quite possibly, especially international clients, right? But I think sort of since COVID, where there's a rise in remote working, there are so many opportunities, and I would encourage everyone, frankly, from time to time, business owner or not, to just step back and think, you know what? If we could sort of start with a blank piece of paper now, what would we do?
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
could
yeah.
start our agency again tomorrow, would it be in London? Would it be hybrid? Or would it be fully remote? Or would we have an office that people would regularly come into? Would we specialize in niche, to go back to what we were talking about earlier? Like, I think there's a number of questions to ask about, if I started again tomorrow, what would I do?
Hmm.
And there might be just some little signs in the answers to those questions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a it's a good way to do some mental gymnastics around your business building, right?
Yeah, great
Um
way to put it.
yeah, like another thing that I think is interesting that you guys ask is you track how confident agency owners feel. And of course, um, it's something subjective. It's a feeling. Obviously, it's also based on some data, but you track how confident agency owners feel about the year ahead, right? You ask
Yes,
to
we
give a
do.
rating, yeah, out of 100. And if they go above 50, if I understood correctly, they're feeling more confident. And if they choose below 50, they're expecting the year ahead to be a little bit worse than the last. What was the agency confidence indicator for 2025?
You've got it. So your explanation is absolutely spot on. That is exactly how we track it. I'm going to bring up the stats because I can't remember this off the top of my head. So over the last 4 years, that indicator we've tracked every year in January every year, and it went from 74 in 2022 to 66 in 2023 to 69 in 2024, and then back to 66 in 2025. So you can see how actually like that has fallen. And if you look even beyond 4 years, confidence was even higher before then. So we are drastically on the decrease, and it just shows after a really tough year for agencies, they're feeling that, and that score of 66 is tied with 2 years ago for an all-time low in terms of agency confidence. What we found fascinating was we did some further deeper analysis into this confidence score, and we looked at those agencies that gave a score of 70 or above 12 months ago,
Hmm.
and what happened to them this year.
Yeah.
And what was really fascinating, so those that were feeling really confident about the year ahead, 70% of them grew.
Hmm.
Now, those agencies that gave a confidence score of 50 or lower, so they were not feeling good about the year ahead, only 8% of them grew.
Hmm.
And an additional stat there, the difference between those two groups, there was a 5% difference in operating profit margin.
Well,
So that might sound obvious, and you might, when you initially hear that, go, well, of course, the agencies that are confident are going to outperform those that are not confident because they're confident for a reason. And I understand that. But I really firmly believe, this may be controversial, but confidence is a choice. There are things that we can do every single day to give ourselves and give the people within our business that confidence boost.
sure.
And I think it shows that the more confident you can be, the better performance you're going to get. That is quite clearly what the stats show. And
Yeah.
so I would really encourage people out there to think about, how do I get that confidence? What can I do to show that actually the year ahead is going to be really positive? And for me, that starts with planning, really effective planning. Can you put some great forecasts in place? Can you put a great plan in place for what your business is going to look like 12 months from now and how you're going to get there? And can you break that down into really manageable chunks? And can you break it down into things that are within your control? So it's really difficult to say, oh, we're going to add £500,000 in new business this year. Actually, you can't necessarily like control that £500,000.
Yeah.
But What's the activity you can do every single day that will lead to conversations with potential clients, that will lead to proposals going out of the door that you can impact? And if you can get really good at delivering that repeatedly, every day, every week, every month, that's going to significantly help you to feel confident that you're doing the right things. And as we've seen, confidence can lead to success.
Absolutely, yeah. Which leads us to the key takeaways or that path to prosperity that you guys suggest to agencies at the moment. What is that path? What are those steps that they should take?
For me, really clear: gross profit. It's absolutely crucial that agencies, whether they are growing or not growing, or feeling great right now or really not feeling good right now, that you're obsessing around your gross profit and your gross profit margin. Because too many agency owners attach success to growth, and that is harder than it's ever been. And so if your only metric for success is your growth rate, a lot of people are going to not be feeling great, and they're going to feel like they're not running successful businesses. And that is a huge flaw, because that is incorrect. You can run an agency that is not growing and is at a consistent level year on year. And if you are maintaining or increasing your gross profit margins along that journey, that's a successful business, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you're going to be working just as, you're not taking on more work, you've not got more stuff to deliver, but you're going to be making more money as a result of improving that gross profit margin.
For sure.
So what first of all, a very quick definition. When we talk about gross profit, we're talking about the revenue that you generate in your agency minus the chargeable wages or your chargeable freelancers. So the cost of the people delivering the work, that's going to give you your gross profit figure. If you
Hmm.
take that gross profit figure and divide it by your revenue, that's going to give you your gross profit margin.
Hmm.
The average in 2024 for agencies over £1 million turnover was 39%. That is an all-time low. That number is going down every single year
Wow.
and is already at a point that is going to be really difficult to sustain. If you are operating at the average level of 39%, it is unlikely you are in a highly profitable and sustainable business.
Yeah.
We need to be getting to that 50% mark. That should be the target if you are an agency, is a gross profit margin of 50%. Now, how do you do that? It's really simple. Look at the work that you're doing and the team that you've got. And to be at 50%, you need to be billing twice as much as your team is costing you, including pensions and national insurance and the like.
Overheads and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and so overheads will come out of your operating
Okay.
profit. With gross profit, it's just the cost of the team that are
Mhm.
delivering on that work. If your gross profit margin is not at 50%, do we need to add add more revenue? Great. If that's the solution, where does that come from? Is that winning more new business? Is it winning more work from your existing clients? Is it tweaking your pricing? Probably, because we know not enough agencies are increasing their prices year on year. But ultimately, we need to add more revenue. If it's not going to be possible to add more revenue, we need to cut costs. And that sounds really cutthroat and really brutal, but the success and the future of your agency lies on being able to make those decisions. So that for me is the thing that we need to get obsessed about as an agency. There are so many levers you can pull on that can increase and improve your gross profit margin. But if you can get obsessed around that, you can build something profitable and sustainable regardless of new business challenges and growth issues.